All right, we go to the ACC now. Number 2 Duke at 20-2 travels down to South Carolina to play 18-5 Clemson. A 6 o'clock tip on ESPN. Duke projected to win 70-61. Duke 8.5 over under 130.5. Obviously, big story here with Duke playing primetime Saturday night game. You're always going to get a lot of eyeballs on it, but a bigger kind of more meaningful story off the court. Dick Vitale makes his return, I believe, over 2 years, he said, since he's last called a college basketball game. Has had a pretty tough battle with cancer over the past few years, but all he's wanted to do, and he keeps kicking along, keeps plugging along, is get back to call some college basketball. And it fits perfectly that it happens to be a Duke game that they put him on first. So great to see Dickie V back. It's going to be cool to hear him. And like I said, if we're at the bar, I honestly might go to the bathroom and put it on Watch ESPN just to hear him for a couple of possessions, just for old time's sake. But Joe, thoughts on Duke Clemson this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it is fantastic. Dickie V is back. I'm very excited for that. Coyle, I'm with you. I mean, we grew up like our entire lives. Like he was like the one consistent, like, hey, big game in college basketball. Dickie V's calling the game. Like you knew that was going to be the biggest game of the weekend. So it is awesome to see him back and be able to hear his voice again. But coming to this game, I mean, I had this whole speech prepared. I texted to you, Coyle, about how I thought Clemson was the most disrespected team in the country. You're sitting there at number 2 in the ACC, albeit a very down ACC, but you're sitting there number 2 in the ACC. Coming into the week, you're 18-4, and you're the first team out of the top 25. You're sitting there at 26. Then they go out and they lose to Georgia Tech, and I'm like, of course. Clemson, tough loss at home, but you're sitting there at 10-2 in the ACC. You're second place in the ACC. And there's people talking about him like getting a 9 or 10 seed. It's just insane. Years past, if you had that record in the ACC, you were talking about, getting a 2, maybe a 3 seed. But it's just crazy to see how soft the ACC's gotten this year. That being said, I am going with Clemson to pull off the upset. Dickie V's first game back. I am definitely taking Clemson to cover. I think it will be a close game. And the one big thing for me is like reasoning wise, Duke hasn't really been tested since they played Auburn. Like the one game where it was kind of a sweat for a little while in terms of, a team could have really won was at Wake Forest. They smoked North Carolina last week. They just embarrassed the shell of what once was Syracuse basketball. And you kill NC State, another rivalry game. Like they haven't really been tested in a long time. I think Clemson is, the best team left on their schedule in the ACC because they do have a game against Illinois in a couple weeks at the Garden. But besides this game and maybe at North Carolina, I think Duke is going to be able to run the table. Like those are the only 2 games that really jump out as like, with like the flashing, like alarm bells that they could lose. But I don't know. I think, they're going to lose this game. I just think they haven't been tested. It's nothing against them. We've seen the great teams in years past slip up and lose a game. And like I said, it's not like Clemson is a mid-major. They are the second best team in the ACC right now, getting to host, Duke after a kind of an embarrassing loss against Georgia Tech, to be frank, the other night. I feel like this is a, game that they've had circled all season long. I feel like it's going to be a very raucous environment, and I think Clemson's going to be able to win. I'm calling like a game winner, either a crazy 3 or, like a floater that bounces around on the rim at the horn. And we're going to hear Dickie V, I can't do impressions, but he'll start freaking out. They'll rush the court. I think it's going to be, a great moment.
Yeah, you've always been a night owl, but you're a bit of a sicko for still being up on 12:18 on a work night. I woke up at like 3 a.m. and I saw that. I thought it was like something bad happened, someone died or something. And I see a text from you, and it's just a paragraph about Clemson. And I'm like, all right, I can text this back in the morning, but I've gone like grandpa mode. Like I'm asleep on weeknights by 10 o'clock. Maybe tonight I'll stay up a little bit later, enjoy myself a little bit, but I'm just beat after these days. And I wake up to that text from you. I'm like, geez, dude, it's just Clemson basketball we're talking about. Calm down here. But I'm going to go with Clemson as well. I'm going to go with the upset. I think Duke is good. I think that they've been proving it week after week. Obviously the big red flag with them. Once again, I'm not trying to do these, but those are good ones. Red flag, Cooper flag, and Texas A&M and Buzz with Buzz Williams, but is the just a lack of competition that they've played, and even like last week against UNC, that they dominated that game. That I think the final margin was 17, but that was a game that was never close. Can Duke, once they get to the tournament, start playing closer games? Are they going to be used to that just because of the lack of competition they played? But this is, Clemson's Super Bowl. You always say these type of things, Joe, like when whatever, freaking Texas Tech host Kansas, or, Villanova, or not Villanova, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when these kind of mid-tier programs in the conference have the chance to host the Alpha, the premier team, they show up and they show out. And that's college sports kind of in a nutshell there. Clemson too is one of those environments in college basketball. Like since I've been little, like when Clemson basketball has been good and they've had good home crowds, it's been one of the funner environments to even just watch on TV. And I think sitting here at 18-5, definitely going back to the tournament, Super Bowl type of game for them. They win this game. I think even after the Georgia Tech loss, they'll be finding themselves in the top 25. Duke, I think, is really good, but I also don't think it's good enough to kind of run the table. Maybe a loss here, kind of a slice of humble pie, is good for them. I'm going to go Clemson to win it outright, 74-70. So Clemson plus 8.5, over 130.5 there.